What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Drinks and Dogs. Going to start off a little bit different. This is episode 37.
37.
There you go. There you go. Katie working on his Spanish, or at least the number one, the number game.
I can count.
So, as usual, you got myself, monotone Mike Jones, and the voice of Drinks and Dogs. The voice of Drinks and Dogs, essentially, Katie Matthews. I bring that up because I don't. Oh, I should have screenshotted you this, but you know how we put like the shorts or like the IG reels. So
Yeah.
they put them on YouTube too for the shorts, because you have to like do that for the whole algorithm on YouTube, right? Like constantly posting like the shorts on it, and then I get email notifications when people comment on it, and someone's like, "Bro, you got to start talking more to make this shit work," or something like that, because it was when you were going like on a rant thing, and he's like trying to make this thing interesting, it can't just be one sided or whatever. And I just like wrote back, because it's through the PTV network. I just put, I was like, me, like, I, in whatever quotations, me, Mike Jones, I'm trying, bro. I'm trying, bro, to make shit funny. So it's always interesting.
Oh, God, I love criticism.
Oh, I just thought it was funny. I was like, yeah,
Makes the world go round.
it's good. It's good. So how are things been with you, bro?
Same. Oh, I got a question for you.
What up?
Do you cook? Are you a cook? Like, do you cook much?
Yeah. I mean, I cook my meal prep. Like, I'm not like I wouldn't call myself like a cook. I mean, I can cook.
Have you ever made something like you saw something, it caught your eye, you made it, and it was just like, whoa.
During the pandemic, yeah, I got really into like cooking stuff, like just like steaks. And then my Instagram, like I always joke around with the guys about this. Like my Instagram feed essentially is just like cooking, like reels and like bow hunting and stuff like that. But during the pandemic, I really got into like the sous vide stuff. So I was like, doing a lot of what they call like reverse searing of steaks. And I actually didn't cook this last one, but Aaron, we got an air fryer.
Mhm.
And then I saw these like little the meal prep things where they're like, make yourself a high protein, low carb McChicken, healthy McChicken. And Aaron made it a spicy McChicken one, and like that one, I was like, I probably bugged her for about a solid 2 weeks of like, babe, can we get some, can we do some more McChickens or whatever? But yeah, I definitely know what you're saying.
So not too long ago, I went out, I bought a not sponsored by Blackstone grill. Like, first off, game changer. Great, complete game changer.
Is that like the flat ones?
Yeah, it's like a flat top griddle. Yeah, it's not, excuse me, it's not a grill, it's a griddle. So it's a big
Okay.
slab of, like griddle, like if you were to go to Waffle House and where they're cooking everything. Um, so I bought one of those, just like I said, game changer. Then I got into, and it was interesting because I was having a fun chat with Howard Young about this, um, because he discovered the beauty of the smash burger, of making your own smash burger. Now, are you familiar with what a smash burger is versus a regular hamburger?
Yes, very
Okay.
much so. I follow Juicy Burgers on Instagram. Shout out to
So
them.
him and I have had some interesting chats, kind of exchanging like little ideas. Well, so I've been making smash burgers. Well, then the other day, one of my clients, she always shares, she's always cooking stuff, right? And so she shared this post of smash burger street tacos.
Ooh.
Oh, you see, yeah. Dude, I didn't even do it to the full extent of what was done in the video, the instructional. I just kind of like threw together my version of it first try. They came out so good that right before this episode, and that's what brought this up because I'm like still sucking pieces out of my teeth. right before this episode, I just slammed 2 of them out of the refrigerator ice cold. I didn't even heat them up. They were
Dang,
so good, I just crushed them cold. I just get like a little tortilla, and now I'll probably play with the idea and like because I bought flour ones. I said, let's just make it good. Never mind health. Now I'll look for some like non-flour based, like try the corn or try to like some of my own. I've made some like carnivore bread in the past, which is actually made
okay.
out of like eggs and shredded chicken breast, and you can make like tortillas out of chicken breast and egg.
Dude, send me that recipe. That sounds super interesting to me.
Yeah, I got it from there's a great book um by Paul Saladino, who love him, hate him, you
Write that
know,
down.
he's gotten very he's gotten out there a bit from where he started.
Mm,
I just credit that to he's playing with social media and he's building a name. But some a lot of what he says, hey, I don't throw babies out with bathwater. There's a lot of good stuff in what he talks about, but he made a carnivore cookbook and it's
nice.
solid. You don't even have to be on the carnivore diet. If you just want to eat more meat, like get really good recipes and good ideas for how to get creative with meat-based stuff and get away from flours and grains, like
Yeah.
it's a great cookbook to have on hand. Totally, totally vouch for that cookbook. But in it, there's different types of bread type things you can make out of chicken breast. Another one is pork rinds. Now, I
Okay.
love pork rinds. But if you get some really good pork rinds and then you put them in a food processor, it makes like pork rind flour. You can imagine a dry pork rind put through a food processor. It's like dust,
Yeah.
right? Well, you throw egg in that, and what do you have? You got a batter.
Yeah. Easy enough.
Yeah, and I mean, I've made pork rind pancakes before, which was awesome with a little bit of honey on it. Like I've made pork rind pancakes with like a blueberry compote or compote, whatever that is, like a little
I know what you're
smidgen
talking
of
about.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you take the berries, you put them in like a saucepan, you reduce them, and then you put some like I used a little bit of maple syrup actually, like pure maple syrup, a little splash of that in there, and made like a blueberry compote and put that over top of the pork rind pancakes. Like dude, but anyway, yeah, smash burger street tacos, that's what's up with me, and I'm feeling very satiated at the moment as I sip on my espresso.
Do you notice that when you go through like healthy, I don't want to use the word kicks, but like when you start pushing, like, you start getting really healthy, you're working out consistently, you're focused on your diet, that you start to get more infatuated with like cooking food, specific foods, or looking at foods. Like
You
it's
have
one
to.
of the things. Yeah, it's always like that's something that's always happened. Anytime I've gotten like I go through like the spurts of like, all right, cool. Like, it's usually when I'm not injured or something like that. I'm like, all right, we're working out, we're trying to maximize all the different, physical things I'm working on. And I get super geeked out on just like food and I start just cooking like random stuff. So I'm looking up I'm gonna start looking up carnivore bread, and I got a bag of epic pork rinds uh in my pantry right now. So about to chop some of that up in our little food processor and see how that
Dude, I'm
goes.
all about the food processor and like when you make some chicken breast and chicken breast, like I'm not a big fan of chicken breast literally the day after you cook it. It gets a funky kind of unique flavor to it. It's not bad. It's just it's like day old chicken.
Yeah.
Um And I mean, I can choke it down for a little bit because I usually put it in the Instapot and shred it. But um, if I have some like whole breasts that are just like they're getting dry, dude, I throw them bad boys in the food processor with a little bit of avocado mayo and some onions and some relish or pickle. Dude, you can make it's like the food processor just brings everything back to life.
There you go. So the first part of Drinks and Dogs is sponsored by food processors and cookbooks.
Dude, have you ever had a chicken shake?
No, no.
Okay, so there's this bodybuilder. I can't remember Seth Feroci. Seth Feroci, whatever. He's got a great YouTube channel. Like entertaining, very entertaining. Um, he I found this through him, like when he was competing. you know, they're consuming stupid
Yeah.
amounts of food. Like, I don't understand. I could never, like, no. And one of the ways he would get, like, he would hit his protein numbers is he takes cooked chicken breast and puts it in the blender.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
and
don't
and
know.
and mixes it with like water. And I did it one time, and I mean, I made it like I was making a real dinner, like it was chicken breast. I actually used some chicken broth and a little bit of water, salt, pepper, and some like a mustard based sauce. I put it all in the blender and got like one of those big like milkshake straws and just pounded it down. Dude, if I ever break my jaw and have my mouth wired shut, I will hit my protein macros. I will.
Is
It's
it
not
doable
that bad.
though?
It's doable. It's doable. It's
Okay.
absolutely okay. So the thing is it's like so many things.
It's like mental.
It's mental. Like you're saying, like instantly when I said it, dude, you kind of made a face. You were "Ugh."
Yep.
Because like drinking chicken, drink chicken. Those two words instantly create in like almost an aversive response. Like, ooh, you don't drink chicken, you chew it.
I
And
think
it's
it's
like,
because a lot of like for the longest time, remember it was like over like what 15 years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. That's like remember like raw chicken, salmonella, like all that other at least over here in California, like that was like a huge thing. Like make sure you cook that's when like the whole mad cow disease thing was going on. Like so chicken for the longest time, at least ingrained in me, especially when we were like when I was cutting weight a lot. You know, you're constantly eating lean meats like chicken and turkey. And like that raw chicken thought process was always like salmonella or like, you know, diseases or you're gonna end up getting sick or some shit like that. So to me already when you say that, I'm like,
well, just wait to
ooh,
clarify, the chicken is cooked.
yeah,
To clarify, like before anybody does anything rash, like no, it's cooked chicken breast. It's just like maybe a day old or something, or you can do it actually fresh. Like it's cooked, so there's none of that funky stuff. But yeah, once you get past the fact that you're drinking chicken, I mean, think about it. People that do have like issues with their jaw or mouth or have surgery,
yeah,
they have to do that stuff. So like, why
yeah.
not? Now, it isn't something I would do for fun all the time, but it's definitely if you gotta lose some weight. And like right before we got on today, I was doing a little bit of work, and dude, I have like so many old dog training videos. Like my computer, my hard drive is stupid full, and I was looking for some stuff in particular, trying to organize. And you ever go back through old stuff, and then you find, whether it's video or photo of yourself when you looked a lot better or when you were in a lot better shape. Like, I just had one of those moments. It was only 3 years ago. And I was like, and I'm looking at I'm like watching this video and I'm talking and I'm like, I don't even wear that t-shirt anymore because it's pretty embarrassing when I put it on. Like the sleeves are loose and the belly's tight. And I'm like, and here I'm looking at this video, I'm like all jacked. I'm like, dang, I looked like that. It was only 3 years ago. Oh man, I need to make a chicken shake.
It's funny that you brought that up because I was going through our YouTube page this what is today? Tuesday, last week, end of last week, and I was going through it and we take a lot of this stuff off of it, or it's no longer publicly like shown, right? So I went through some of like the very first like things I've ever put out. This is before like Instagram, I think like Facebook, yeah, Facebook was going on. Actually, no, yeah, Facebook was going on. I think MySpace was still around, but I started making these videos of me and my like these pits and some of the boarding trains I had. And this is like 11, this is before it was called Primal Canine. This is like Mike Jones, like dog training or something like that. And it's, I have to send you this video. It's pretty, oh, dolphin noise, sorry, G. It's pretty hilarious because it's literally is me when I was still competing and 11, 12 years ago. And I was like, because mind you guys, like when I competed, I used to fight at 170 and I typically walk around at like right now I'm about 210, 215. And I'm like right now I'm really healthy. I'm pretty healthy. but I would make the cut to 170. So I was probably walking around 200, 190, 195 because I was always doing jujitsu stuff or getting ready for something. But I was like paper thin. I looked and I had full head of hair. So I looked at it. I was like, oh, darn it. So I had 2+ more dogs. So that was Maryland and Bear. And then I had a lot more hair. So yeah, it's funny to bring that up.
170. That's sketchy, man. That's
Dude,
sketchy. Well, for
once
you, like, I mean, I'd be fine at that because I'm not a big guy, but like, dude, 170 when you walk around in the twos.
yeah, man. And like I'm pretty like if I get into like between 210 and 205, like I get pretty lean. But 170, I'll have to whenever the Facebook memories pop up some weigh-ins, I'll send you a picture of it. I look like a freaking bobblehead doll. It's just like all emaciated in this giant head. Like, how the hell am I keeping that thing up? Just doesn't doesn't work out that way.
Well, I've been noticing on your social media a little bit. I this is my perception of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a little bit more content of you training, like not dogs, like doing the rolling. Because I know I've sent you a few messages teasing you about, you know, put the gi on and stuff. Are you have you been actively, deliberately training more?
Yeah. No, it's one of those it's kind of like we talked about this like a few podcasts ago. Like I just wanted to find go back to things that were making me like, happy and balanced like in my head and like, things where I can kind of like express certain things out. And the the one thing I've always missed when I wasn't training was not necessarily the aspect of training like jujitsu or striking, was just the camaraderie when I used to train and fight for Fairtex under Leopoldo Sorao, and like training in those camps and like being around like the guys and like you know beating each other up. Like I missed like that element. It was something that was like really important to me for a long period of my life. And when I got away from it, I started noticing different things where it irritate me a little bit different. I'd be a lot more short temper, like just like elements of it. So I'd always trickle it in here and there, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then finally like around like or like this after I got done with that freaking mental breakdown I had at the end of the year and the injuries, I was like, you know what, man? I was like, I gotta stop playing this game of like, maybe I don't need to do it all the time, and like maybe I'll just kind of trickle in here or there. I was like, I'm just gonna just dedicate going back to just doing this and keeping it a part of my normal daily or my weekly staple and kind of like an anchor. So I'm back to training. I train with Leopoldo, and Coach Carlos every Monday. We do this last yesterday we did like 7 rounds, 6-minute rounds of rolling, no gi, your favorite, and then 6-minute rounds of boxing and Muay Thai. But I'm much happier when I get to hit things and choke people. So it's I'm definitely back, and I don't see myself leaving it anytime soon because aggressive Mike is a happy Mike, I guess you can say.
See, and for me, I get the same result, but for a different reason. Like
What is
for me, the stress relief isn't the application of violence. For me, the stress relief is the problem solving involved in someone projecting violence upon me. Or not, I mean, I shouldn't even call it violence because that's a whole we've talked about that back in season one.
yeah.
Like I don't consider, and this is just me in my vernacular, I don't consider most of what we do in grappling to be violent. Um, it can be if we change the rules, but I think a lot of
Just
what is
aggressive cuddling.
yeah, it's I just think it's because of my experiences with certain individuals who have taught me about like what real violence is,
Yeah.
and then my own personal experiences with violence, and like, oh yeah, that's not what we're doing in jujitsu. But what what I get out of it is the massive amount of problem solving that is taking place. Another reason why I'd prefer gi. And for those who don't know, when we're talking about gi, no gi, gi is like the big, heavy pajamas made of like a linen cotton material that it doesn't rip. It's heavy as heck. It's very
Yeah.
durable. You can either wear that or you go no gi, which is like whatever. There's nothing to hold on to. Um, it's another. I
Besides
mean, there's
sweaty men.
besides sweaty men. Um, there's a list of reasons why I prefer gi, especially
Yeah.
now as I get older. But one of the main reasons that I've always preferred gi was I found it to be so much more of chess. I found it to be incredibly problem solving centric. If that's if that makes I don't make sense. Like
No,
you're
it does.
there's way more problems to solve because of all the holds and all the different things and the chokes and the fact that you're wearing these pajamas that can be used against you and in
Most
many
definitely.
ways. It's your brain is like nonstop problem solving. So, I've said it over and over again. Like I would always drive home slower than I drove there. And it isn't as much for me I'm getting rid of violent energy or I'm getting rid of stress through exercise or aggression. It's I'm getting rid of stress because I don't have time. I don't have excuse me, there's 0 bandwidth available when someone's trying to choke you unconscious, break your arms and legs, or wrist lock you. Um, like there's no bandwidth. There's no
Yeah.
space left. So when you get done with that, you're so balanced and your energy is just so chill. Like because you got rid of every problem in your freaking life is
Yeah.
gone. And then you're in a better state when those problems start to creep back in. You're like, yeah, that's nothing, man. Like tomorrow night, someone's going to try to rip my head off. Um, and I've I've spoken about jujitsu, throughout the years through my platforms of dog training media because it's there's a massive overlap between what we experience in jujitsu or any activity that requires that level of problem solving and keeping our dogs balanced, keeping our dogs healthy, keeping our dogs, if we're working with weaker dogs or insecure dogs, building them, building their stability, building, increasing their resilience to stress, their resilience to things that are outside of their control. It's the same thing, man. I do the same thing with dogs, like obstacle courses, giving them things to do. Um, like it calms them down.
I think that so I mean like there's a lot there because I mean there's a lot there. I mean like with starting with jujitsu and everything like that, like with jujitsu, exactly what you said, it is there's nothing else to think about. Like when you're rolling, like for me, like obviously like I roll with like Leopoldo Sorao, it's been a mentor of mine for a long time, jiu-jitsu black belt or luta livre black belt, which is essentially no-gi jiu-jitsu. For those who don't know, luta livre is like the origination of no-gi jiu-jitsu. Uh, it's a Brazilian, born sport type of a thing. But rolling with him, it's like, you don't really get time to deal with, and we talked about this before, just as being dog trainers and business people, all the taxes, the employee stuff, the market, whatever, everything that comes with running a business, or multiple business in our cases, it all fades away because you're trying to not get a limb or uh, broken off or choked out by a large sweaty man man or someone who's way more talented in the art of grappling. So you're problem solving, you're focusing, and you're using a lot of physical strength. So for me, it checks a lot of boxes off when we're doing that. Now it's we'll kind of sidetrack here, but my funny story, uh Katie, when I first put a gi on, so I had already been training, let's see, 5 years with Leo at Fairtex, and just I never put a gi on before this with Leo, just in no-gi doing luta libre stuff. I moved further south from where Fairtex was, or no, Fairtex was gone, so they're in San Francisco. So I was in San Jose, and I went to a gym called Heroes, ran by Professor Alan Marquise, more commonly known as Gumby. He started the brand OTM on the mat. So he was one of the original founders of OTM, and he started a club called, or the gym called Heroes. So I heard really good things about Gumby's gym, all that other stuff. So I went in there, and it's all for me, coming from Nogi and coming from Fairtex, where it's all large guys. Like I was one of the smallest guys in Fairtex. in our jujitsu on the mat, and there's 15 of us, like 15 of the team at the time, and I was one of the smallest guys there, and it's everything's smash. You know, new guy comes in at the gym at Vertex. Leo's like looks at you, gives you the look like, all right, you're gonna smash him. You know, it was that type of atmosphere, you know, that we were a part of, right? Lots of pressure, everything like that. So I go, you know, I try to, you know, obviously went in open minded, gonna be humble about, you know, things. And, you know, I started over, and I never done gi before. So I started over. I told them, I was like, y'all wear a white belt. It's fine. Put the white belt on, go in there. Didn't talk about any of the stuff I'd done before. Then, you know, you start going in and you do what you do in no gi, which is usually smash and pass, a lot of pressure techniques, things of that nature. And I started finding myself getting caught in like positions like I'm passing through a half guard into side control. Next thing you know, I'm getting choked. So then I'm like trying to grab a hold of something. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? Pulling the pulling like the freaking like collar back. I'm like, I had to like reset myself. And I just, you know, I'm known for like guillotines, you know, that's why I have a tattoo on my arm. So like I just started going into guillotines in like survival mode. And one of the things, I think it was like the first week of doing gi, I rolled with a guy named I think it was Flexi Mike, Mike Nguyen. Shout out to Mike Nguyen. He has a gym now over here. Once I remember the name of the gym, I'll plug it for him. But smaller guy, really lanky, you know, not saying that bad, but like not intimidating, you know, type of a thing. Dude, in 5 minutes, this dude tapped me like 10 times. Just with my own equipment too. Like I'm pretty positive I got tapped by my own belt at one point in time, or something like that. But at that point, I had a whole new. Not that I didn't appreciate, you know, gi, 'cause obviously like it wasn't like, oh, you know, gi's lower than no gi. It's like it just was different things. And it was just one of those things where I was like, dang, I was like, there's a whole level of technique that comes with this, that in my opinion, utilizing both, because even after, you know, I trained at Heroes for a while, and then I opened a gym with my ex brother-in-law, Arash Dibazar, who was a black belt under Batata, uh, you know, and that they're all in gi. So when I started teaching over there and, you know, working different things, the technical aspect of what I learned from wearing a gi and combining it with essentially the wrestling and the just the sheer force and strength of no gi definitely like helped create my game to be a lot more technical than what it was, and a lot more aware of certain submissions. But it created it the thing that I liked about it the most was that it created a different mental mind state for me. Instead of going in and be like smash, 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 kill, 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 do all these things, you know, grab the arm, you do all this stuff like that. It slowed things down to where it was a lot more of a technical approach. And it also helped with a lot of like my mental approach to certain elements of things, right? Because it shifted that, I don't want to say like aggression aspect of things or aggression thought process. It shifted that thought process to more of a calm, controlled thought process, and like in essentially in ground fighting, which kind of cultivated, you know, the style of decoying that I have in working dogs and training with dogs. So it all kind of transferred into that world, and it's, you know, created what we do now in Primal Canine and Street League and all the other stuff that we do. Like everything's much more thought out because of those elements of nogi and gi jujitsu, and just the thought process and the technique of it. But side note to that, I don't know what you talk about getting older and wanting to use the gi, man. Like the older I get, the more I want to go no gi, because I got hurt way more in the gi, way more. Like amount of digits I got stuck inside of like gi pants, or like rolling with like staticky like white belts, and like, you know, next thing you know, you're just like freaking, you know, rope burn here like this, or like your finger stuck in a gi, or like, you know, just all that other fun stuff that comes with wearing pajamas.
No, that just comes with experience, man. Like when you first put it on after not wearing it for a while, yeah, for about a month, your knuckles are raw because of the grips, because you're
Yep.
gripping. So like the first row, usually it's the first row of knuckles. There's no skin left on them, and then
Just become white.
it hardens up. Now, I will say this, like I'm sure you know, if you meet someone who's done over 10 years in a gi, like I mean 10 years, like training 3 to 4 times a week,
Yeah.
like their hands are shot. Like I will say that, like when you look at all the older Gracies, like their knuckles, like the
Yeah,
amount of
like gang
arthritis,
signs.
yeah, like their gi destroys your digits in the knuckles. massive amounts of arthritis. You will wake up in the morning with claws, as do they uncramp from the night before. Outside of that, I just like, for me, it's to me it's safer because you mentioned something like when you started doing it and what you just mentioned in terms of the takeaway that you got from gi, it is slower in general. I mean, you can do anything fast,
Yeah.
but in general, it's a little bit more methodical. It is a little slower. And I find, like, especially if I'm going with younger guys, I typically don't go with, if you're bigger and inexperienced, I stay away from those guys now. Like big new guys, I generally don't mess with because that's how you get hurt. Um, if you're bigger than me, but you're my level or above, I'll roll with you all day because I know you know what you're doing. You're not going to do dumb stuff. But generally, the gi allows, when you get that spazzy, frisky, younger, faster, stronger, it's like you just get your grips and you're like, slow down, young fella. I get it. You just came from no gi class. We do things a little slower over here. Okay, here's a little choke. Okay, are you feeling better now? Can you slow down? Like the gi just kind of, it's like an equalizer, whereas no gi is just wham bam, thank you, ma'am. But I'm not, as much as I prefer it, and I'm not like this in dog training. I've never been, I'm not like this with anything. Like I'm not a like what like culty. I guess culty is the word. Like I'm not culty towards like anything, not truck brands. That's something guys get real culty about. Martial art disciplines, gi or no gi. To me, both of them are immensely valuable. Do I have a preference? Of course, I have a preference. But my takeaway is no gi will sharpen your offense in general. Obviously, with gi, you got chokes and things that you don't have with no gi. But let's just talk about grappling in general. No gi sharpens your offense. Why? Because it's easier to escape in general in no gi because of sweat, and there's no clothing grips. So if you get someone stronger, faster, younger, whatever, more explosive, if you do not launch your submission appropriately, perfectly, if your sequences are not perfectly timed, they're gonna get out. There's just way too much wiggle room, literally and figuratively, right? So no-gi sharpens your offense because your attacks must be precise. Gi sharpens your defense because it's the complete opposite. So if you get caught in a sloppy arm bar, like they don't execute it quite right, they're trying to find it, they're trying to
Yeah.
settle in. And in no-gi, you're like, yeah, buddy. In gi, you have the friction of your gi against theirs. So if their execution isn't that great, they can still kind of hold on to the position a little bit because there's so much friction. There's so many ways you could hold a guy in a certain position while you work on the submission. So your defense has to be great, which I think likens itself to what you were saying about it slows down you have to be more methodical. It slows you down a little bit because if you screw up in gi and put yourself in a bad position, it's way harder to get out, which means you either get you not either one, you're better about not getting put in bad positions, and two, your escapes must be technically sound. When you perform an escape maneuver, it has to be the way it's supposed to work. Because if you suck at it, the friction of the gi and all the handles, you're not getting out. Does that make sense?
You can get I find yourself getting into more traps in the gi. It's more of a trapping game, like if you're especially if you like for me, it's no gi was always kind of a old until now. No gi was always I always played top. I hated playing bottom, just because it was just never really like a comfortable position for me to be in, with that stuff. But then I noticed once I went into gi, well that and well now I can only play bottom because Leo says since I only train once a week with them over there, he's like you got to start in the bottom because those are the weak points for me. But in the beginning, like, it was always top, so, like, it's like pressure passing, things of that nature, but then when I learned a lot more gi stuff, I started becoming more comfortable with, gi on the bottom because there was, like you're saying, there's a little more methodical, nature, and then you can transition, at least transitioning submissions and, setting traps in the gi is a little bit easier because you can slow things down, you can transition a little bit different because of those grips. And I never was like, never it was, nor will ever be like one of those like wizardry type of jujitsu guys where, they're constantly switching and transitioning into different styles, or, going to barimbolos, and then, you're in some form of spider guard. Next, like you're doing like, I look like a puppet where like their hands or arms are here. Then I'm doing this thing. Like, those guys are the transitions, and the technique from the gi guys was always pretty awesome. And then, I see the same thing in like no gi too. I mean, like rolling with Leo and the monsters he has over at the Sorrel Academy in Nogi, like doing some of the stuff that they do that I learned in gi, and like just the transitions. I mean, the sport in general has evolved so incredibly, like so much more than what I remember it from when I first started. And I see that a lot in, these guys who come in from Brazil that Leo brings in, like Lucas and Carlos and a bunch of, and this other guy in Francisco, these other guys. I mean, like just the technique, the technical aspect of it. I think it is from a culmination of, everyone is now, because before, with gi and no gi and, the whole Creonte thing, before, and I think that I see this in dog training too, the transition. And I kind of see the comparisons, and some of it is that there was kind of like, more of a culty thought process, like to where you like what you're talking about, where it's like no-gi this or luta libre versus jujitsu and all these other issues that were coming into it. And now seeing, and I credit this a little bit to social media, is now seeing where the everyone kind of is working together. There isn't this Creonte thought process where if you go train in another gym, you're a Creonte, which is like a trader, and then you can only train with your group of guys, and like that's it. But I've seen this, the transitions, the thing becoming a lot more evident. The success of the transitions become a lot more evident in jujitsu nowadays with some of these like newer guys and everything like that too. Because I mean, I see it in the guys that I train with all the time, and next thing you know, I'm like, these dudes are a little bit smaller than me, and next thing you know, I'm like, I'm dolphin noise. I'm getting rolled around, and somehow someone has my back when I was just on top a second ago, or and I'm between my legs, and now I'm in like some form of like, ankle lock or knee bar, or heel hook, just from the certain things. But just you see it, like I said, you kind of see it in dog trainer too, like where you have more talk, more different styles of training becoming combined into one, which is like formulated all this new stuff, and not new stuff, but new styles, I guess you would say.
Well, you just said something that just made me think of something where there's an incredibly interesting parallel between the two, right? And so I came up in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which, I started under one of Hoist Gracie's first black belts. It was very traditional. This is in 2005. At the time, anything other than a straight knee bar or an ankle lock, an Achilles lock, anything other than that was frowned upon. Not officially, but it was just kind of like, why are you messing with feet? Why are you messing with the feet? Oh, you're one of those guys. And it was a social thing, right? It was a
Yep.
social cultural thing. We're messing with feet and doing all the leg locks was just ugh. Meanwhile, are you familiar with catch wrestling?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the catch wrestlers, aka pain wrestling, I got to learn catch wrestling from Carl Malenko. Um, one of the original Malenko brothers, like trained under Carl Gotch. Like Carl Gotch lived with them. It's as pure catch as catch can as you can get. And that's who I got to learn some catch wrestling from. Meanwhile, those guys are absolute savages in everything they do in grappling, including the feet. And I had a buddy of mine who at the time was training with Carl regularly. I wasn't at that point. And people would kind of like, yeah, like they threw some shade at him. Now, mind you, he's tapping him out nonstop with footlocks, all different types of footlocks. Fast forward about 15 years. Ever heard of Ryan Gordon?
Uh,
Like, like all of a sudden, be, messing with the feet didn't just become cool. It's like upset, like people are obsessed with the feet. And some of the same people obsessed with leg locks now were the same ones throwing shade back then. Now, let's look at dog training. There are certain, nothing's new. There are
Yep.
things that people have been doing forever. Let someone popular do it, or someone with a little bit of social clout, and all of a sudden it's, oh my god, that's so cool, and that it's like, dude, that's been like people have been doing that forever. Like that's not new. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Wait, didn't you make fun of that like 10 years ago? I think I got the post. I got the screenshot. Like, it's interesting, to kind of look at dogs and what we do in that context, and see the similarities. But I think I don't think that's special. And what I mean by that is I think when we look at all these different topics, and that's why we talk about everything here. Everything.
Yeah.
There's overlap in life.
Yeah.
In life, there's so many things, because it's about, you guys always hear me talking about principle over method. Like, if we understand the why behind things, it unlocks so many doors, not just in the application of methods, but in understanding things. Something you said earlier that I was processing, because I always have like a million things going on in my head at one time. You're talking about top and bottom game, right? Well, I'm the opposite. I was this, I got very comfortable very early on with guard. And that's why I got pretty pretty damn good at sweeps, because I was always playing from the bottom, to the point where, to me, rather than face the challenge of starting right off the bat and getting top position, I took the I took the easy way up. Full transparency. Like, I took the easy way up. For me at that time, I was 150 pounds, if you can believe that. Um, I was the smallest guy at one point, then the second smallest guy in my gym. And it was just easier to just pull guard and then sweep them. We're tapping from the bottom. And I got really good at that. Then when I had some real life encounters, or I had some situations that were play, but with no rules, I was getting the shit kicked out of me. Like, it was just, it was brutal. We if we experience some level of perceived success as a result of a path we've chosen, it can blind us to where that path will lead us. And
Yep.
it can set us up for, like, you know, fast forward 15 years, even though I'm not training like at all right now. Like, when I do get on the mat, like, I'm not pulling guard anymore. Like, everything I'm doing is, no, you take the hard way, dude, because it's going to pay off. Like, nope, you got to get on top. You got to do this. You got to do this. Stop relying on these things that work in very specific contexts, but don't have a broader application. Now, let's talk about dogs. And this is for all you dog trainers. Well, no, this is for everybody. This applies to pet owners, even competitive handlers. Um, but something I've been speaking about lately, and for those who don't know, I work with dog trainers now, like a lot more, helping them with their business, not just the dog training part, but understanding the nature of their business and how to be an entrepreneur. So there's always some interesting conversations when it comes to sales. And especially when you start talking about prices. Something that a lot of trainers struggle with is pricing themselves appropriately and fairly. Many people undervalue. They price too low. You start talking to them and dig it in. Well, why? Why haven't you raised your prices? Why haven't you? And it all comes back to the same thing. Well, they're scared of not getting the sale. They're scared of not getting the client. So rather, that's me pulling guard,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
That's
experienced this.
that's you
This is
butt
my safe
scooting.
spot. Yes. Yes. Like, this is my little safe spot. This is where I have perceived a certain level of success. I'm getting what I want. I'm getting clients. I don't want to raise the price, well, because my sales skills are lacking, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole to get into the psychology of why people do that. Um, but it's like, okay, let's look at the big picture though. You're here because you're struggling. You have no personal life. You're taking on too many clients. You're overworked. You're overstressed because you have too many clients. If you're that booked, then you need to raise your prices.
Yep.
And look at where this has gotten you. This mindset of this is like the sweet spot. This is where I'm comfortable. But yeah, but look at where it's gotten you. You're miserable. You're struggling. Or there's all these other problems that have arisen that for me, pulling guard all the time, playing from the bottom, then you start playing with the big boys, you start getting with good guys, you're not sweeping them. Or if there's punches involved, you're getting your face caved in.
Mm.
And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I played this game because it was safe over here. It didn't get me anywhere good. And that's where so many dog trainers are struggling is they didn't get the right instruction, they didn't get the right guidance, they didn't get the right coaching. They created habits, they built a system that worked for them on a small scale, but they're miserable everywhere else and they have all these other problems because of it. And so that's what I work on with them is like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's dig in. And I mean, too much. I'm not going to review that here. It's just too much. But
Yeah.
like, that's what we have to do. And it's the same thing. The overlap is everywhere, man.
And kind of, I'll just kind of chime in on the sales part of things too. Is
Please.
like I help a lot with like I help mentor some upcoming dog trainers. We do a shadow program and everything. And one thing like people have always talked to us because our price points, I feel like our price points we're gonna bump them up here again pretty soon just because of that's what the nature of the business and we're in much more demand. And we continue to do. But I believe we're much more demand just because one, if you charge a specific amount, obviously it's the reason why you're charging is because that's where you're valued at, and you've proven that you're valued at it by the demand that you have with a specific amount being charged, right? But I think it also reinforces the fact that if you're charging a significant amount, just as you being like for me, like I care about the product that I produce, and the product I produce is my service, right? So like my service is always going to get better. I always want it to get better. It's never going to stay the same. It's always going to develop and continue to get better because I believe there's always refinement. You can always refine things. You always get better at things, whether it's customer experience, client experience. If you spend a little, if you charge a little more money, you take in less clients, which means you can focus in on the clients that you have, a little bit more. There's a lot of things that happen to it. But another element of it too, because one of like a lot of my mentees and shadows always ask me, they're like, Mikey, like you guys never do sales. Like Primal Canine has had us, I think 7 years ago was our last sale. And I tell them, I was like, yeah, I was like, because my services aren't getting cheaper, the quality is getting better. So I mean the price is gonna either remain the same or gonna go up. So when that sale runs out, I'm not gonna devalue I'm not gonna devalue the services that we have because that just devalues the product and the service in general. But also it creates an expectation from the clientele to wait, like, oh, hey, oh no, they'll have a spring sale, a summer sale, a fall sale. And while that sale, yes, may generate revenue right then and there for you, but it will eventually, one, it'll crowd the ability that you have to take in clients who are spending, twice or whatever, 75% more, or whatever your sale is, take availability from them for a lower price point when that service is valued at this higher price point, but you're selling it at a lower price point, and it just kind of crowds your stream up here. Where if you just hold to a specific, this is what my price is, this is why my price is this way, and this is what it's going to continue to be, then that's just it. There's no playing the game of, I gotta do this ad campaign for this sale. It's like, no, this is what we're set, this is what our price is, and we continuously go from there. And that's stuff that I always talk to a lot of my uh clients, I guess, or more partners in that sense, where I'm like, hey, like, no, there's no sales in this because this isn't a piece of tech, this isn't a video that I've already shot one time, this isn't like no product in that sense, this is a service that we're performing every day, or whenever we have our clients in front of us, or training that dog every single day. This is time consumed and time and effort put forward, not just one time but continuously throughout 7 days a week.
Sales are
Yeah,
like pulling guard.
yeah, that's when you get scared. You're like, oh shoot, man, winter's coming, I'm gonna lose some I'm gonna lose some stuff. And unfortunately, and nothing against people who do sales, but unfortunately you do see a lot of people pulling guard consistently, and you see it all the time. Like, people are like, oh, winter's coming, summer sale. And then when we get the phone calls from like, well, so and so is offering it for this much, I'm like, awesome, that's not what we're offering it for, but you know good, good for them, or whatever it may be. But I think just in the core aspect of the dog training culture, and this may be, I don't know, it might be offensive to some people, maybe whatever. I think if we pull sales and in general for because if you think about it, like when we talk about, oh, when someone asks you for what you do for a living, you're like, oh, I'm a dog trainer, I'm doing this. Immediately the general thought process of the person asking you, and we've used this conversation in different contexts before. They're like, oh, you get to play with puppies all day, or they get to do this. Like you're that the job isn't looked at it as doesn't looked at as like like what the profession that it is. Because I mean, I've had other professions before, you as well. And I have other companies that we do different things. But like dog training itself is a profession. It is a learned skill over years. And to become proficient at it, you have to invest time, years of it. You don't just go learn, you don't go to like
You
a
don't take an
Barbara.
online course in 6 weeks and get a certification and become a dog trainer? Oh, wait, other
Yeah.
places like that?
I mean, like, dude, I mean, I was recently in the hospital and like when you do the x-ray tech, like how many, I mean, nothing against x-ray techs, but like, you learn that profession going through a technical, whatever school or university to do that. Whereas being a dog trainer, you take a variety of different apprentices, you put your hands on leashes, you work for free for a long period of time to become proficient at it. And I see this and, I slowed down my own apprentices where I'm like, they're like, oh, well, now I can, I've went through this school, that school, I've caught this many dogs. Like they look at it at a cumulative amount of hours, like a number, right? Like I've done it for this many hours, so this much mean on this. Like, no, I've been doing this dog training for, over close to 2 decades now. And like I'm still refining things. I'm still, going through things. I'm still getting better and better and better. And like that's one of the things, like we know when going back to the original subject of it, imagine if as dog trainers we never did sales and all we did was, you know, we get better, so prices get better. I think a lot of it, what it does is it creates a better community aspect for dog trainers, one, and two, it also creates a little more. And Katie, you're probably better with the words with this one, but I want to say, create a little more of a premium or a positive uh, correlation to when you go, oh, my profession is dog training. Like my perfect, like what I do for a living is dog training. So it's not like, oh, you get to play with puppies. It's like more viewed as what I think it should be. Where for a lot of the times, like you are essentially, you're a therapist, you're a behaviorist, you're a freaking, like you're an animal train. You're training an animal. You're training somebody. You wear a lot of hats being a professional dog trainer, and that's just going into the pet side, not even looking at it when it comes to major behavioral cases or bite work or whether it's in sport, because there's a variety of different forms of bite work in different sports, different methodologies and theories and those things. And then you go into personal protection and law enforcement, things where lives are on the line. So I mean, when someone says dog trainer, and this is why I don't feel like as dog trainers, when you do a sale or you lower your prices, you kind of devalue what the term dog training is, dog trainer is, and what the art and profession of being a dog trainer, in the reality, what it really is.
I I agree 100%. I think one of the contributing issues, it's one that I deal with regularly more than ever now because I am working with dog trainers. And what am I working with them on? Well, they don't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
So you can't complain about not being treated like a professional when you don't know how to be a professional.
Facts.
I mean, that's a mic drop moment right there. I'll say it myself. I'll take the mic off. I'll throw it on the ground. You can't complain about not being treated like a professional when you don't know how to be a professional. And there will be people who will get all like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, how dare you? No, like, let's call it what it is. You're taking phone calls all night long. You're not setting appropriate boundaries with clients. You're dealing with all kinds of problems in your business that are totally avoidable because you just don't know how to run a business. Well, that contributes to it. So everyone who sees you, that's going to contribute to their perception of what a dog trainer is. Someone who's good with animals, they play with puppies. And they're frazzled, they're stressed out, they're all these things that we don't typically associate with being professional. Like a professional has their shit together. And so
Yeah.
many dog trainers are struggling because they don't have their shit together. And it's fixable. That's why I don't have a problem saying that. Like, it's they can get their shit together if they start investing in themselves. They find somebody, I don't care who it is. It doesn't have to be me. Like, there's plenty of people out there who they can find who can help them with that part of it so they can be more professional. They can be more competent at everything else involved. And like you see their communications with clients and they're sharing the screenshots and this and that. It's like, well, dude, you're part of the problem. You know, we always tell our clients, the dog treats you like our pet clients. Like we tell them, the dog treats you the way you allow them to treat you. Well, the same, hey, dog trainer, follow your own advice. Your clients treat you the way you train them to treat you. And this contributes, I think, in general to how people view the industry. They're always going to pick out pieces, right? And that becomes the icon. That becomes that's who they view it as. And that spills over into these incredibly toxic, super toxic perspectives when dog trainers who aren't doing well with their business and managing all the aspects of that, they see other people in the space crushing it. So rather than be like, "What can I learn from you?" They trash them. They put them down. Oh well, da, 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 da. Well, okay, maybe they're not the best dog trainer. I mean, the reality is there's going to be people out there who aren't going to provide the same results you are. Maybe they're not as good. Their results aren't as good, but they're doing really well. Well, rather than just like talk crap about them and isolate yourself even more and take yourself even farther away from a goal you may not want to admit that you want to have, like why do that? Why not go, okay, I'm not a fan of your training, but you're doing something right and
Yep.
everything else that's just under that loop. But that's not how people, that's not how the weak mindset is. People would rather just point the finger and, oh, well, I don't want to be good at that because look at that horrible person. They're good at that. Well, what does one have to do with the other?
The-
What does one have to do with the other?
yeah. I laugh because it's pretty funny. Like we have like a I don't even want to phrase it that way. I can say it. So, we used to have I used to have like apprentices, right? And I had a friend, and there you see people, like, especially with online, they're like, "Oh man, like I don't understand why this person is doing so well with that," and like, they have all these followers, or they're doing all these getting all these opportunities, and when their dog training isn't the greatest or whatever like that. And my response was always like, it doesn't matter. I was like, in reality, like, you should look at it like kind of what you said. You should look at it in a way that's like, one, it's good for the industry because there's someone who is using styles of training who may not necessarily be accepted, and it's becoming accepted on a mainstream level. It's getting out there to more people. The message is getting out there to more people. The people are able to see the training, and if anything, it should be a focal point on, okay, cool. Like if I like these things and I want those things that this person has and I want his other stuff, then you should start focusing on the, let's say, the deficits that you have, maybe in some cases, like for me in jujitsu, the bottom game that like I work on consistently, to improve on. Maybe you should work on your bottom game. Maybe you should work on your top game. Maybe you should work on developing these things that you see that obviously make you feel jealous about this person, in order to bring this up to me. Maybe you should focus on those aspect of things, because it's easy to point out small things when when you're trying not to look at your own flaws. It's easy to be like, well, this person sucks at this because I don't want to look at, I suck at that. Like I'm not doing those things. It's pretty interesting. But I think, like, if you look at what I look at it in the industry, and I look at it as in dog training, like I look at opportunities, or just opportunities to do things. Like when I I'm gonna shamelessly plug something right now, but I have two new products. I have two new products that are dropping this week or next week. So I remember, I'll start with the first one. So I have the this brand, and this is ironic that I'm wearing it. But Omerta. So I partnered with Omerta a year and a half ago. I only well, we collaborate on a few shirts, and I have another shirt dropping this week. Well, already the commercial should drop this week, and I think they're going to be ready for fulfill it by next week, or maybe the end of this week. But I remember when I got with that brand and, Primal Canine at the time, what we were doing, I believe we were the first ones to ever team up with a streetwear brand that had no connections to the dog world. And we produced like the Pack Life shirt, and this new shirt's called Pack Life. It says Pack Life only. I'll send you the commercial later, Katie, so you can check it out before it goes out there. But I remember talking to some of the guys like in our camp. They're like, well, what? They're like, immediately it goes to like, well, what do they, why do they want to work with you? Like, what, like, it was like, not like, oh, hey, cool. Like, great, like, that's awesome. Like, great that we're doing this. And they're like, oh, well, why would they want to work with you? And they're like, well, what's the point of that? It's not dog training. I was like, yeah, that's the whole point. It's not dog training. It's working with another brand that I like, I agree. It kind of aligns with who I am, like, or what the company, the culture that we have. And I was like, on the business aspect of things, it's progression towards a whole other group of people who may not even know dog training is like an actual thing, or their dogs may need dog training, or it's just a whole other market. Because as dog trainers, and I feel like this is probably the same thing in every other industry, you think of yourself in this bubble, like you even, like you said earlier in a comment, in reality of like a jujitsu and or in, forget what I don't know what the term is, but in terms of jujitsu, right? You're like, all right, like I pull guard here and it works out and really successful here in this one guard. But then you put that into real world aspects, in real world aspects where you can get punched in the face and it doesn't work out so well, right? So in dog training, you can look at yourself as just a dog trainer, and you only see yourself as a dog trainer. And that can be the problem when it comes to the business aspect, and growing your company, growing your self-worth, your net worth, all the other things your company's worth. But if you look at it as dog training as a business and dog business in general, these business opportunities where you can branch out and work with something that's completely outside of the scope of dog training, it's only for the betterment of the dog training business, better for your business, and having the eyes to do that. And, a lot of it's just guts, because you never know. Like, a lot of people are afraid to take chances. Luckily, I'm not one of those people, as you can tell, Katie. So when we took the chance to do this partnership with our merchant for the first one, now we're on freaking shirt number 4. We're on shirt number 4 with them, and this is the one I'm actually the most excited about. We branched out, and in reverse, Ray Allen kind of did the same thing with me. When Ray Allen was switching their branding, and kind of switching their marketing, or shifting their marketing over, Matt Wilson hit me in the DMs, and ever since then we have another product. This is my other shameless plug. Another product dropping, I believe. Well, we shoot the commercial today, and I already have stock. I'll have stock of it by the end of the week, and it's the Incock shirt. So that's another product out there. But they did another aspect. They went from this is Ray Allen. We've been training dog. We've been making dog gear before there was dog training. That whole thought process. To now, doing the collaborations they've done with Primal Canine and myself, with what they've been doing with, some of our other mutual friends, and, expanding and becoming more of the culture. If you notice, what the job that Matt Wilson has done, he's done a great job over there with them. And I think like that's one of like the cool parts about it. It's like focusing, not nitpicking at other people for the little things that you may be just being not self-reflecting, and you see something that you're lacking in, and you see someone else is strong in, and you want to pick on that, versus be like, hey, I need to get better at it. But okay, like that was a weak point of mine. Now let's just get better, and get better all together, type of a thing. But yeah, shameless plug. Our Merta Pack Life only drop coming soon, and Incock shirt coming soon. So with Ray Allen.
Looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, everything you said, man, spot on. People need to, hopefully some people are watching this one and like doing some thinking. Like, because everything you just said, you had a moment there, Mike. It was awesome.
I had my KD moment.
Proud of you.
Shout out to you, YouTube guy. I said some talking stuff.
Spot on, man. Like, I don't even have anything to add to that, because I know what he said, what that guy
there
said.
You go. Well, on that note, let's wrap it up here. Katie's finishing his espresso.
Yeah, and
gotta go eat
end on that.
And that one. So huge shout out to our sponsors, our sponsor, Ray Allen, rayallen.com/K9SL. Use the Primal 10 code for additional discounts. And Katie, let people, like, because you brought up your program that you're working on, or that you're doing right now too. How can people, let's say they want help on their business, they want to get better, not even just better at business, just better in general as a person and everything like that, become that professional. How do they get a hold of you? How do they reach out to you for that?
The easiest way is going to be through Instagram at KD Matthews 1T. Absolute easiest way. You can always go to my website, Socratic Canine. Canine is spelled out. Fill out the contact page there. I'm all over Facebook. You can find me there as well, but definitely Instagram. If you're not already following me, at least click the follow button and shoot me a DM. Either my assistant goes through all of those for me and the message requests, and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Highly suggest you guys doing that if you need any help with that stuff. So again, thank you, brother. Always
Thank
fun
you.
doing these talks and getting more of this
37.
stuff out there. And then we're on to the next one here next week.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
buddy.
brother. Have a good day. The rest of you too.